Hey everybody, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, LearningToMix.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And today we're going to take a look at the second half of the Presonus Vintage Channel Strip Collection. This is the RC500. The last video we took a look at was the VT-1. If you haven't seen that video, go search the archives. I did that as well. This is now the RC500, which is the second plugin of the virtual or the classic Channel Strip Collection by Presonus. Now, this does not come standard with the Presonus Artist or Professional version. This is an add-on plugin that you can buy at the Presonus shop. If you just log into your Presonus.com account, check out the store. You can pick this up, I believe, for $79 US, and every so often they're running specials on them, so check that out there. So before we get to the RC500, if you like what you see in this video, please hit that subscribe button below. It helps me out tremendously. Also, go out to facebook.com/homerecordingmadeeasy and follow me there, as I'm always posting stuff there daily. That's not always a part of YouTube, so check that out as well. And if you want more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around all aspects of home recording, go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com and check out all my training courses I have there. A ton of free content there for you to take and do what you will with. And also, if you want to join a like-minded group of individuals in a mixing community, head on over to learningtomix.com and check out what myself and Pete Woj from mixbetternow.com have going on over there. It's a great community of like-minded individuals who are learning and trying to get better at the craft of mixing, and we do a ton of stuff with Presonus and Studio One, and we also use other plugins as well. It's a wonderful community of people, and I really think you'd love to check it out. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee, and it's super affordable, so go check it out. So now that we got all that housekeeping out of the way, let's head on over to Studio One and let's take a look at the RC500. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's talk a little bit about what the RC500 is. This is a FET modeling channel strip. Unlike the VT-1, which is more of a tube-based model, this is part of the state space modeling technology that Presonus has recently got themselves into, which they're trying to model a lot of the old classic hardware in plug-in format like a lot of other third-party companies are doing. But this is the first DAW company that's really trying to step it up to the next level. If you have Studio One, you also know about the FAT channel, which has the Pultec EQ, the LA2A, and the 1176 style compressors as well as the Neve EQ and the Pultec EQ, as I mentioned. So Presonus is really trying to do a great job doing this new state space technology, this modeling, to get some of those analog tones into your digital audio workstation without having to go out and spend any real additional money on third-party plugins. Although, as I said, the RC500 is a $79 add-on, but you get two plugins for it, so it's really only like 40 bucks, which is a great deal. So let's look at the controls of the RC500. It's laid out pretty easily. Over here in the top left-hand corner, we have our compressor section. We have our attack time, we have our release time, and we have our threshold. We have a bypass toggle to bypass the compressor on and off. Okay, pretty simple. Underneath that, we have our preamp section. We have a gain here, which will push more signal into the RC500 prior to the compressor. So the preamp is actually, the signal flow is going from the preamp to the compressor. Okay, and then you have a master volume here to kind of compensate for the volume increase or decrease of the volume of the plugin here. You have a high pass filter here set at 80 Hertz if you'd like to use that, and we have a phase flip or polarity switch here. In the center, we have our beautiful VU meter, and we have two ways we can meter that. We use this toggle switch, and when in the up position, it meters the gain reduction. In the down position, it meters the output of the plugin. Okay. Then over on the right-hand side, we have our EQ section here. So in the top here, we have from a 2K to a 20K. This is a variable, not a stepped kind of an EQ. And we have plus or minus 16 dB, and we can either have it as a peak in the up position or a shelf in the down position. So when it's in the peak position, if you had this set to say 6K, for example, you are going to have just to have a boost there at 6K with a fixed Q on either side of 6K. So the Q is not going to be super narrow, but it's not going to be super broad. It's going to be kind of in the middle. When you have it on a shelf setting, and let's say you set it to 6K, then everything from 6K and higher will have the amount of gain added to it. Okay. And then in the center here, we have our 400 Hertz to 5K range, again, plus or minus 16 dB. And then last but certainly not least, we have our 20 hertz to 400 hertz, plus or minus 6 dB as well. So what I've done here, like I did in the other video, because this is the same song that I used, or the same audio that I used the VT1 on. You can see the VT1 is disabled here at the top, so you can kind of compare the two. I wanted to use the same source material, and you'll find that they sound vastly different from each other. Okay, so we have all of our drums down here in brown. We have a bass in blue, 2 guitars, and a Rhodes piano. Everything else is turned down. I threw this channel strip across all the plugins, as well as the drum bus. Okay, and that's it. Nothing else, other plugins going on here, except that we do have auto align on the drums to phase correct the drums. The VT1 channel strip is turned off, as you can see. So before we kind of dive into each individual track, and we're not going to look at every track here to keep this video somewhat reasonable in length, we'll take a look at a couple of the key instruments and how I use this. And then, but most importantly, I want you to hear cumulatively what this plugin does when you put it up across all your tracks. Okay, and how a little bit along each track cumulatively will mean a pretty big difference in the audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight from here, excuse me, all the way over to the drum bus here. Oops. So we're going to highlight all these tracks, and what I'm going to do is play back the audio, and somewhere in the middle, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to toggle off the RC500, and as you can see across all the tracks, it will turn itself off. So we're going to start with it in the off position, and then halfway into the loop here, I'll turn it on, and you'll hear what the RC500 is doing to this audio. So here we go. Okay, so you can hear the difference there. Now, if you did watch the VT1 video, you'll probably realize that the VT1 has a lot more color and is a lot more obvious. The RC500, because it's a FET style, it's going to be a little bit more transparent sounding compared to the tube style channel strip in the VT1. But it definitely adds a nice enhancement to the sound, but it's a little more subtle. So that's a great thing about those two plugins. You buy them in a collection, but they're vastly different from each other in the way they sound. So let's just go ahead and solo up the drums here for a second, and let me just kind of show you what we did to the drums here. So that's before the RC500, after. Okay, so again, it's subtle. Let's start with the kick drum. And I'll just show you the kick, the snare, maybe the overheads, and we'll walk through the bass and a couple of the guitars. So on the kick track here, here's what we have. And I'll turn this up a little bit more so you can hear it. I'll exaggerate it a little bit. Okay, so now for all the drums, I set the compressor to the same attack and release settings, and I like to do that on drums. Once I get my attack and release dialed in, I like to keep that same setting for all the drums, so all the drums kind of move and breathe together as far as a compressor is concerned as one unit, as opposed to having all the drums set separately. Then it's going to sound a little more disjointed, okay? So I have a pretty slow attack and a pretty fast release on these drums, and I just use the threshold to dial into taste about 2 to 3 dB of compression. You'll see on all the tracks, on the preamp side, I kind of pushed in the signal a little bit, quite a bit into this plugin to see how it would react. And then I turned down the master to kind of compensate for that. So on this kick drum here, you'll see probably even a little bit more compression than we probably want. And about 3 dB there. Okay, and it's 6K. I did a little bit of a boost here just to give a little bit of the click. And at 450, I took a little bit out here just to get rid of a little bit of the hollowness. And then right around 60 hertz, a little bit of a bump here, about 3 dB to give it a little more punch. So before the RC500, here's what we have on the kick. So it gets a little more punchy, a little bit more present from the EQ, tightens up a little bit. Okay, let's go over to the snare. Whoops, don't want to do that. Snare. Again, I'll turn up the snare so you can hear it. Okay, again, couple of dB of compression. Again, same attack and release settings, not just pulling back the threshold, just enough to get a little bit of compression there. Again, pushing the preamp, you know, quite a bit to kind of get some signal pushed into the RC500. On the EQ side here, the only thing I really did is right around 420 or so, I pulled out about 4 dB to get rid of some of that woofiness. So before the plug-in, here's what we have. After. So the sustain of the snare gets a little bit longer. Obviously, there's a software. This is not a live drum set. This is a software drum set. But even so, get a little bit more sustain from the snare. It gets a little bit thicker and a little bit more punchy. Okay, so that's our kick snare. Let's listen to our overheads now. I'll lower the snare back down. Okay, so again, on the overheads, we're only getting a couple of dB of compression here. Again, pushing the preamp gain, not too much here, and then also using the high-pass filter here as well, set at 80 Hertz. On the EQ side, at 450, I'm pulling out about 3 or 4 dB, and that's really about it, and this is what we get. So before the RC500, after. Probably use a little bit of top end here. Okay, about a 4 or 5 dB boosted, about 10K, just to bring out a little bit of the crispiness and the hi-hats a little bit. Okay, so if we bring the rest of our drums back in, let's move over to our bass, and let's see how the bass kind of plays with this together. Here's the whole drum kit again. No RC500. Okay, now here's the same instance of the RC500 on the drum bus here. Just wanted to play around a little bit with this. Slow attack, fast release. Not doing a ton of compression, but I'm pushing the preamp gain quite a bit here, and I've turned down the master volume to kind of compensate. Only a dB2 of compression. Before. After. You can hear as you pull down the threshold how it really clamps down and you start to get that breathing and pumping effect. So this threshold is pretty sensitive. I found here that you don't have to move it very much to have it really clamp down really hard. And I'm not using any EQ really at all here on the drum bus here. So this is a pretty sensitive compressor. Very subtle. even that's too much compression. So to be totally honest with you, part of this is I probably wouldn't use this on a drum bus. It just clamps down too hard, too quickly, and when you have it so it doesn't do that, then there's real no audible difference in the world. This is not one of my favorite compressors or channel strips for the drum bus. For the individual tracks, it sounds kind of nice, but on the drum bus, not so much. Just pull a tiny bit of compression in there. You can even hear that kick drum compressing a little bit here. Now you can go ahead and turn on the high pass. And that'll keep the kick drum from kind of affecting the way the compressor's responding. Okay, so you get the idea. So when you put the high pass filter on the drum bus and it takes the kick drum out from affecting the way this compressor is responding, it sounds a little bit better. But again, not my favorite for a drum bus, but just wanted to kind of show that to you. So that's like kind of how it is dialed in on the drum bus. Now let's throw in the bass here. Let's see what the bass is doing. Okay, so on the bass, I got a little bit more of a medium fast attack. I got kind of a slow release, so let it sustain a little bit more. Again, we're doing about 5 dB of compression here. It sounds, this kind of sounds really nice on bass, I think. Again, pushing the preamp, but not as hard. On the EQ side, right around 1.5K, just a little bit of a 2 dB bump, and that's really it. And so before the RC500 with the bass, here's what we have. I'll turn it up a little. So I think the RC500 does really nice on bass. It really rounds things out and smooths things out pretty nicely, and it doesn't sound like it's clamping down too much, and we're doing quite a bit of compression here. So I like what it's doing on the bass here. Now let's take a listen to like this kind of rhythm guitar. Semi-distorted. So about 4 dB of compression here, kind of a fast attack. So it's a strummy kind of guitar. I want to kind of tame those transients a little bit. Fairly medium fast release. And then let's see. Again, about 3 to 4 dB of compression, pushing the preamp a little hard, but we're not overcooking it too much. On the EQ side, around 5K, a little bit of a bump there just to give it a little bit of crisp. And other than that, that's it. Before. Okay, I like what it does to these guitars. So I'm loving it on the bass. I'm loving it on the first guitar. Second guitar is just like a little bit of lead lick sweetness here. So we're doing quite a bit of compression on this as well. I wanted to push it a little harder on this lead to kind of even out the performance and just see what it sounds like and how it reacts. So again, we're doing kind of a medium fast attack. We're doing kind of a medium fast release. And we're doing about anywhere from 5 to 7 dB to compression, depending on how hard he's hitting that, hitting those notes. Again, we're not cooking the preamp too much. And then right around 6K, we're doing a little bit of a 2 dB boost. That's really about it. So before the RC500. Sounds pretty good. And then last but certainly not least, we have our Rhodes piano here. Okay, so we're doing the same, about a medium attack, a little bit more of a slower release on this. Again, doing about 5 dB of compression on this Rode. Again, cooking the preamp a little bit, but we're not jacking it up too much. And then right around 8K, 9K, we're doing a little bit of a boost here, about 3 dB, and that's it. And it kind of helps push that Rode up front there a little more and get it to cut through the mix and gives it a little bit of clarity. So I'll start with the before, and then I'll bring it in, see if you can hear it. So even on the piano, the Rhodes piano, I like the way it sounds. So out of all these groupings of instruments, I really like it on the bass, the guitars, and the piano. Not a big fan of it on the drums. I played with this for quite a bit to kind of dial in the right sounds, and it doesn't sound fantastic. It sounds okay. It adds a little bit of color. I would probably use things even more sparingly on the drums. I'm not real thrilled with the way it's kind of pumping and breathing the drums too much, but I like what it's doing to the other instrumentation. So the thing about these kinds of plugins, whether it's a stock plugin like by Presonus or any third-party plugin, is you got to drop them on your tracks and you got to play around with it. And you'll find which plugins kind of work better on your source material depending on what you're working with. And you'll find things you'll like, and you'll find things that you may say, maybe I'll pass on that and I'll try something different. Now on the video, we use the VT1. I love that on drums. And go check out that video if you haven't seen it. That does much better to me on drums than this one did. But I like what this is also doing to the guitar, the bass, and the Rhodes. So it's kind of horses for courses, but that's how you do some experimentation. So I hope you like this video. This is a kind of a quick look at the RC500 by Presonus. Is again part of their state space technology. It's a really great plugin, and something that if you don't have any third-party analog plugin emulations and you're trying to get into that and you want to add a little color and vibe to your mixes, you can do this all inside of Studio One. And even though this is an add-on pack for $79 for the 2 channel strips, and then you also get a VU meter plugin as well. So you get 3 plugins for $80. It's really a great deal. And again, they do have some color, they do have some vibe, and it definitely will add a little something to your mixes. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks once again for joining me here at Home Recording Made Easy and learningtomix.com. Please go out to those 2 websites, check out what I have going on. And until the next video, I've been David Vignola with Home Recording Made Easy and learningtomix.com, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.